Buck was a powerful dog, half St. Bernard and half Scottish Shepherd, living a pampered existence on Judge Miller's California estate in Santa Clara Valley. His days were spent in comfort and leisure, unaware of hardship or struggle in the protected world of domesticity. Everything changed when Manuel, the gardener's helper, kidnapped him to pay gambling debts, shattering Buck's sheltered world forever. Buck was sold to dog traders and eventually purchased by a brutal man in a red sweater who taught him the law of club. The man beat Buck with a club until the proud dog learned obedience through fear and pain. Buck watched other dogs suffer the same treatment, understanding that resistance meant further punishment and violence. Two Canadian couriers named Francois and Perrault purchased Buck along with other dogs for their sled team. They sailed north on the Narwhal to Dia, Alaska, where Buck encountered snow and freezing temperatures for the first time in his life. Within hours of arrival, Buck witnessed Curly, a friendly Newfoundland, attacked by a pack of huskies and trampled to death. This death taught Buck the law of fang in the wild. Weakness meant death, and mercy did not exist. Buck was harnessed to the sled traces, forced to pull heavy loads across the frozen landscape despite his inexperience. He learned to work alongside experienced dogs like Spitz, the lead dog, and Dave, who showed him the brutal realities of sled dog life. Francois and Perrault drove Buck and his team relentlessly, making record runs across the Klondike and driving him to exhaustion. Buck's wild instincts awakened as he adapted to harsh conditions, learning to scavenge for food and steal from other dogs. His muscles hardened from constant labor, and his instincts sharpened through daily struggles for survival in the wilderness. Buck's growing strength created an intense rivalry with Spitz, the lead dog, who sensed Buck as a threat to his authority. Spitz had ruled through brutality, and Buck challenged this dominance through increasingly direct confrontations. When a pack of mad huskies attacked their camp, the showdown between Buck and Spitz was postponed by chaos and violence. Later, Dolly, one of the sled dogs, went mad with rabies and chased Buck across the frozen landscape. Buck returned exhausted to camp, where Spitz immediately attacked him, cementing Buck's resolve to overthrow his rival. Buck actively undermined Spitz's authority, preventing him from disciplining other dogs and gradually turning the pack toward his leadership. The final confrontation came when Buck and Spitz fought fiercely across the frozen ground, their struggle witnessed by the other dogs. Buck used intelligence and cunning to outmaneuver the more experienced Spitz, eventually breaking his leg and leaving him to be finished by the pack. With Spitz's death, Buck assumed leadership of the sled team and made record runs that earned him respect and admiration. Yet Buck's triumphs were short-lived when Francois and Perrault were forced to hand the team to a Scottish courier wearing them down. Dave, one of Buck's teammates, fell ill from overwork and was shot out of mercy by the Scottish courier. The exhausted team was then given to Hal, Charles, and Mercedes, 3 American fortune seekers with no experience in wilderness survival. These new masters were cruel and incompetent, beating the dogs while withholding proper food and rest. They loaded heavy cargo onto sleds and forced Buck and his weakened team to pull impossible weights across brutal terrain. Buck and his companions grew skeletal from starvation, while their masters fought constantly over trivial matters and strategy. The situation grew worse when the team arrived at White River, where the spring ice was beginning to thaw and crack dangerously. John Thornton, an experienced outdoorsman camping nearby, warned Hal that crossing the thinning ice would be suicidal. Hal, arrogant and desperate, ignored Thornton's advice and beat Buck viciously to force him to rise and pull the sled. Buck refused, sensing the danger ahead, and Thornton intervened, striking Hal and cutting Buck free from the harness. Thornton saved Buck's life moments before Hal forced the remaining dogs forward onto the weakened ice. The sled and dogs broke through the thawing ice and plunged into the frigid water, drowning beneath the surface. Buck watched this tragedy from safety, recognizing that Thornton had saved him from certain death. Thornton became Buck's new master, and their bond was profound and genuine, unlike any previous relationship Buck had experienced. Buck's devotion to Thornton was complete. He would have died to protect this man who had shown him compassion. Buck saved Thornton from drowning in a river and attacked a man in a bar who tried to start a fight with his master. In a wager for $1,600, Buck pulled a sled carrying a 1,000-pound load, winning the substantial sum for Thornton. Yet even as Buck's love for Thornton deepened, he felt increasingly called toward the wild and wilderness around him. Mysterious sounds from the forest stirred something ancient and primal within Buck's awakening nature. Buck began venturing deeper into the wilderness during the day, exploring forests and meeting wolves while Thornton panned for gold. He encountered a timber wolf with whom he felt an undeniable kinship, and they ran together through the woods. Buck hunted wild animals, testing his strength against bears and moose in the untamed Yukon landscape. Despite these adventures in wildness, Buck always returned to Thornton's campfire each evening, torn between two worlds. Thornton and his partners continued searching for gold along the Yukon River, ranging far into uncharted territory. They eventually discovered a stream rich with gold deposits hidden in a mountain valley among the Mackenzie Mountains. Buck was left free to roam the wild country at will, spending increasingly longer periods away from the human encampment. His primordial instincts grew stronger with each passing day, pulling him deeper into the wilderness. Buck spent weeks hunting and living as a wild creature, embracing his ancestral nature with growing confidence. He tracked and killed a magnificent bull moose, proving his prowess as a hunter and wild predator. Yet Buck's bond with Thornton remained, and he continued returning to camp despite the increasingly powerful call of the wild. Buck felt pulled between two irreconcilable worlds, his love for Thornton and his need for complete freedom in wilderness. One day, returning from a particularly long journey into the forest, Buck approached the camp and sensed something terribly wrong. The camp was silent and abandoned, with no sign of Thornton or his partners anywhere. Buck discovered evidence that Yeehat Native Americans had attacked the camp and murdered all three men. With the death of his beloved Thornton, Buck's last connection to human civilization was severed forever. Grief transformed into rage as Buck recognized that the Yeehats had taken the only person he truly loved. Buck attacked the Yeehats who had murdered Thornton, killing their chief and scattering the tribe in terror. He overturned the law of club and fang, no longer bound by human relationships or domestication. Buck heard the call of the timber wolf pack and followed them into the forest depths. He met the timber wolf he had befriended earlier, and they howled together in recognition and kinship. Buck fought the hostile wolves and proved himself worthy of joining their pack. The pack accepted Buck as their leader, and he ran with them through the Yukon wilderness. Buck became a legend among the Yeehats, known as the ghost dog of the Northland. Each year on the anniversary of Thornton's death, Buck returned to the old campsite to mourn his fallen master. Buck had finally answered the call of the wild completely, transforming from domesticated pet to wild creature. His offspring carried both wolf and dog traits, symbols of his dual heritage and full transformation. Buck sang the song of the younger world with his pack, forever wild and free.